Resuming debate, the honourable member for South Okanagan, West Kootenay.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'd also like to thank the member from Huron-Bruce for bringing this bill before us. This is a bill that supports small distilleries and small businesses across Canada, and as such, I'm happy to support it at this stage, but I think it could be improved. And as my colleague from Cowichan, Malahat, Langford said, this is not a bill at its heart about international trade. It's a bill about increasing the share that Canadian distilleries have in this market, and it's certainly not a bill that touches at all on middle-class tax breaks. Mr. Speaker, the craft distillery industry is booming in Canada. 4 years ago, there were only 9 distilleries of any size in British Columbia. There are now 34 craft distilleries, small distilleries there, and there will be 44 by next year. They're springing up in my riding. There's one that my old doctor's office in Naramata is now a craft distillery, and I won't go on to try to relate that to the healthcare situation in Canada, but it just shows the growth of this industry both locally in my riding and across the country. These businesses are creating good jobs, providing high-quality products, and diversifying the economy of many small communities across the country. And we should do whatever we reasonably can do to support them. You know, in my riding, 2 of the important primary economic drivers are agriculture and tourism. And increasingly, the real growth in the regional economy there is at the intersection between those 2 sectors. The obvious example is the phenomenal expansion of the estate winery sector in British Columbia and other parts of Canada. In the South Okanagan, wineries have really boosted both the agricultural sector through good markets for grapes, good prices for farmers, and the tourism sector, filling in the spring and fall shoulder seasons with thousands of visitors tasting at wineries. Distilleries have begun to provide the same benefits locally. As I said, a few years ago, there was only 1 distillery in my riding. There are now 5, and more are planned. These are true craft distilleries. Under BC regulations, they are restricted to 50,000 litres of alcohol production per year, and they must use BC agricultural products to make that alcohol. These regulations differ across the country. In Nova Scotia, I believe craft distilleries are restricted to 75,000 litres per year, and I think it's 100,000 litres in Ontario. And again, from what I understand, neither of these provinces require that distilleries use Canadian grains to produce that alcohol, and some distilleries simply import raw alcohol to produce their spirits. But in my riding and throughout British Columbia, craft distilleries are required to use local products, and for a good reason. It creates jobs in our country, and it produces spirits that are truly local in origin. Okanagan distillers use Okanagan grains to make alcohol and often use Okanagan fruit to flavor specialty liqueurs. There's one distillery, one of the oldest distilleries in my riding, Maple Leaf Spirits in Penticton, uses apricots from literally the orchard next door, right across the fence, to make one of their liqueurs. And this is precisely what brings visitors to these craft distilleries. They want to taste and purchase products that are carefully made, literally handmade, and are unique to our region. Now, like the member from Winnipeg North, I don't indulge in spirits that often, but I do like to have a gin and tonic, a cold gin and tonic on some of the hot Okanagan days in summer. And this summer I had a friend come up from Vancouver to stay with us in the Okanagan, taking advantage, as many visitors do, of the warm lakes and fine wines of the region. She often brings a selection of wine with her, and we enjoy the summer evenings tasting the new vintages. But this time she arrived with 4 different gins, including one from a distiller in my neighborhood, the Douglas Distillery in Oliver. And we did a blind taste test, and I was surprised at the variation. I'd always thought that a gin was a gin was a gin. But happily, it didn't really matter what you mixed in with your tonic. But happily, I found out that the locally produced gin was far superior, in my opinion, in taste to the others. And again, it is this superior quality and unique flavors that are driving the growth in the craft distilling industry. It's the same process that has driven the growth in the local wine industry. We've helped out that industry with various incentives, and our efforts have paid off handsomely with a vibrant wine industry in several parts of the country. One of the things that we did to help small Canadian wineries was to eliminate the excise tax on wines that use Canadian grapes. And this helped them compete with imported wines. We should do the same for these craft distilleries. So I would say that this bill, which lowers the excise tax to $6 per litre, is okay as a first step, but we should really provide incentives to the small distilleries that are producing excellent, truly handcrafted products that distill their own raw alcohol using Canadian grains, and therefore contribute to the Canadian economy, both in the agricultural sector and the tourism sector. So I think we should match the tax breaks we gave wineries by having an excise tax exemption for craft distilleries that produce less than 50,000 litres of alcohol per year and that produce that alcohol from Canadian products. So to conclude, I would say that I'm happy to support the bill at this stage. We should provide all the reasonable assistance we can for this thriving industry, assistance that will help small businesses and farms across the country. But I do hope it can be amended in committee to really stimulate the growth of truly excellent craft distilling. Cheers.